Gilbert Arenas arrested and facing federal charges.
Arenas is expected to make his first appearance in a federal courtroom this afternoon.
Baller busted, an NBA veteran, Marcus Morris, arrested right here in South Florida for fraud.
Why would you do that? You know, you're already making a lot of money. Beasley ready to sign a 3-year, $42 million deal.
Let's be clear. Gambling has always been the NBA's dirty little secret, and it's not going anywhere. But here's the thing about dirty secrets. If they remain secret, it's all good. But as soon as they get exposed out in the open, all bets are off, especially when the feds get involved. Enter Malik Beasley, Gilbert Arenas, and Marcus Morris. 3 NBA representatives of different branches, all arrested for gambling-related charges. But these aren't ordinary charges. The NBA's already suffering from a ratings and watchability issue. Imagine what would happen if fans stopped believing that the games were all fixed. Add to the fact that these are multi-millionaires who knowingly broke the law when they did it. That is the definition of an addiction, and is threatening to destroy the NBA from the inside out. Malik Beasley is the saddest case on this list because he's lost the most and was at the pinnacle of his career. Malik Beasley is an undersized sharpshooter who's actually been a productive player wherever he's gone. But again, with the NBA's bias towards size, he's been traded around. But he finally found a home in Detroit and was about to sign a 3-year, $42 million contract. In short, Beasley had 42 million reasons to not break the law. But what's crazy is, Malik Beasley also had already made $60 million in his NBA career, but was already the focus of investigations for not being able to pay back loans and having financial issues already. But then you add to the fact that during his time with the Milwaukee Bucks in the 2023-2024 season, specifically January 2024, he's under a federal investigation for controlling the outcome and basically saying that he was going to throw the game, like the way he was performing was gonna be dictated by the Vegas gambling odds. And these are not charges that FBI would bring lightly unless they had extreme proof, because it's the NBA. This isn't just some dude who's being charged with a federal gambling investigation. And I want to make something crystal clear. I'm not some virtue signaling prick sitting here saying gambling's bad. I love gambling in all forms. In fact, since 2008, poker and I have had an on-again, off-again love affair. But that's the point, is I never let it get to the point where I was mortgaging my house and my future like these guys. But also the second part, which is even more important. When I wanted to play poker, I did it in a casino, legally. This is a representative of the NBA, a guy who was slated to make $42 million. And guess what? That's now on hold. This is so sad and so tragic. And it is the absolute core of addiction. Think about this, guys. Like, really. He's made $60 million in his career. Even if y'all want to get picky and say, oh, well, he would have lost half of that to taxes. Okay, buds. He's made $30 million in his career so far and was on pace to make more. But still couldn't shake the thrill, the notion that he could make easy money. Like, his financial troubles were that bad that he would put this on the line. The only hope for Malik Beasley is he still hasn't been charged exactly. They don't have enough evidence yet to fully book him. And let's hope it stays that way. Because truthfully, even though he's been silly, you don't want a guy like him to lose everything he's worked for. While Malik Beasley is the saddest person on this list, Gilbert Arenas is by far the stupidest person on this list. Malik Beasley lost $42 million potentially, and that's a shit ton of money. But $42 million to Gilbert Arenas is like a weekend. This guy is so unbelievably wealthy. He made boatloads of cash in his NBA career, well over $150 million. Now he runs a podcast which has well over 1 million subscribers. He's sponsored by Underdog. He's got media commitments out the walls. His son is about to also make it big in the NBA. He's a highly rated recruit. Gilbert Arenas' net worth is well over $200 million. And yes, this is not the first time he's been busted. He's had his name notorious for a while. And yes, of course, when you're that wealthy, okay, gamble as much as you want. But he's just been arrested for having illegal poker rings in his house. And let's be really clear about this. It's not illegal to have a poker game in your house like you and I have always done with our buddies. That's not illegal. It becomes illegal when you start taking a cut or the rake, meaning that every hand that's played, that makes you a casino, and that makes it illegal. And that's what Gilbert Arenas is being prosecuted for. It is the stupidest bleeping financial gambling related crime you'll ever hear of. Now some of you watching might think, okay, Gilbert Arenas is a moron, we all know that. But how does this actually impact the NBA at large as you're suggesting? Well, let me explain quickly. The NBA has already had many gambling related issues, as we said, but they were able to stomp them out because there were individual instances like Tim Donaghy or even Michael Jordan himself. But it didn't seem to be a widespread thing, at least on the surface. But when it's a widespread problem and players who are currently employed and players who are previously employed are betting on games, it costs the integrity of the game. And when that happens, that's terrible for a league and a sport and an organization. Because while the NBA's viewership is growing internationally, still the NFL outperforms them by almost 3 times. And the NFL is mostly only popular in the States. When guys who are getting paid this much and who are this important to the league are actually gambling on the game or not following rules, it's a perception issue. And that sometimes is worse than reality. And unfortunately with Gilbert Arenas, this is a double or even triple-edged sword if that's a thing. Because A, in the NBA when he played, the reason he pulled guns on Javaris Crittenton was, oh yeah, gambling related feud. Then now it's costing him his reputation because he's being paid by gambling to run his podcast. He's paid by the NBA. But last but not least, he's also supposedly had associations with known crime figures within those poker games. And now this takes it to yet another level. He just thought he was bigger than the casino. Just like when he was in the NBA and got arrested for the gun charges, he thought he was bigger than the league because he was making the most. Same thing. He's getting paid boatloads, bucket loads of money now, still. But you need to be taking rake from people from poker? Dude, there are 1 trillion casinos everywhere in the States who will gladly take your money, and there are plenty of other high-rolling players. In fact, you can create your own poker games, book rooms. There are so many ways around this. But now Gilbert has the feds crawling up his ass, and that is a horrendous look. Especially because his biggest sponsor is Underdog Fantasy. He's being busted for gambling, and his biggest sponsor is a gambling related company. So what does that say for the NBA? How does that look? This guy has a podcast with 5x NBA players and has current NBA players, executives, media members on there all the time. Like it or not, he's one of the biggest facing media podcasts out there. And it's different from ESPN. So it's got a huge viewer base. And it is a representative of the NBA at the end of it. And what is this showing? Like, guys who make absurd money already. It already creates a distance between the fans and the NBA players, right? Because NBA players are just less accessible than NFL players. NFL players, some of them are 5'5" and 170 and just run really fast. You know, that's way more relatable than looking at a dude who's 6'8" and can fly. So, and then he gets paid ridiculous amounts of money, but even that's not good enough. He's gotta go and gamble illegally. Again, it's not the gambling that's bad, it's the illegal. Same as Beasley. Gilbert Arenas knew what he was doing when he did it. Or if you're gonna say Gilbert is that dumb, which he is, it doesn't excuse it. Whether you knowingly do something or you just don't give a shit doesn't matter at the end, because the outcome's the same. And it's really, really silly. But while Gilbert Arenas is just very stupid, whereas with Marcus Morris, the people he pissed off, there are no rules for them. And this is the scariest case on this list. Marcus Morris Sr. has made over $106 million in career earnings in the NBA, but is now being under investigation for fraudulent checks made to Vegas casinos for $250,000 and $400,000. And while they're yelling to social media claiming, oh, this is all a big misunderstanding, here's the truth. If it happened once, we could say it's a misunderstanding. But happening multiple times and signing fraudulent checks, dude, that's not a mistake. That's a, oh no, I got caught. And here's the thing, with Vegas, there's no rules. With casinos, they have full range to enact quote unquote justice in whatever way they see fit. Yes, Marcus Morris is a big name, and he's definitely got a notorious nickname in NBA circles. He's always been known to paint outside the lines, if you catch my drift. But again, it's just highly shocking. A guy who's made well over 100 million has to even consider writing fake checks. And then to think that you're gonna get away with that against Las Vegas? Blood, I don't wanna get too graphic, but the desert's a big place, and you'd be silly if you thought there weren't a few bodies in the desert. That's all I'm saying. And that's pretty much a well-known fact. And truthfully, Marcus Morris is pretty lucky that they decided to do this lawfully instead of enacting their own typical form of quote-unquote law.